All right, I'm going to open the Hood River City Council meeting of April 11th. It is 6:01. And anyone watching this, we are having some technical difficulties. Hopefully it isn't too glitchy on your end, but at some point during our meeting tonight, it's possible we're going to have to shut everything down and then boot it back up. So we'll let you know if we're going to be doing that so that you can get back on after we boot back up again. So, and we may have to use just one camera tonight too because of the problems we're having. Well, I was going to do cell phone reminder. We have no one in the audience. I'm going to do the land acknowledgement and then we'll do the pledge. As we meet tonight, let us all remember that today we are stewards of land that has been home to Indigenous peoples for thousands of years before the recent arrival of the European heritage dominant culture. We honor this land's ancestors as we go about our business today. Okay, we'll do the pledge.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
All right, and if anyone has the regular agenda in front of them, we were going to have a presentation by Congressman Blumenauer this evening, but he came down with COVID. And so we're going to reschedule that to a different date. Don't know when that'll be yet. So we're going to go ahead and recess to consider our urban renewal agenda. So I'm going to go.
I just want to make a note that I'm unable to share my video. So just wanted to note that for some reason, it's not letting me share my video on here.
Okay, thank you, Gladys. Okay.
Gladys, it should be fixed. Can you share your video now?
All right, great. So we have 4 counselors here in chambers and we have our 3 other counselors on Zoom. Fantastic. So I'm going to go ahead and call to order the Hood River Urban Renewal Agency meeting for April 11th at 6:05. And we don't have anyone signed up for business from the audience. So we do have a consent agenda, which is the meeting minutes from March 14th.
I move we approve the consent agenda.
I'll second.
Okay, Megan has made a motion to approve the consent agenda and Tim has seconded that motion. Any discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Any nays? Any abstentions? Chair votes aye. All right, regular business item, Heights Streetscape Evaluation Memo, Phase 2 and open house updates. Dustin.
Thank you, Mayor. This is a non-action item for you, but we are now within 10 days of our Phase 2 in-person event, which is very exciting. This is going to be our first in-person opportunity to share some of the findings, some of the goals with the public, and have some first-person public engagement with the community. So it's something we're really excited about. This would be really the last opportunity that we meet with you before we go to the public. So I wanted to share some of the matters that we've been updating, talk about some of the communication items that are going out, and really just give you a heads up and invite you to participate. We are going to have meeting starting at 5 to 9 on Friday night, and then from 10 to 2 Saturday morning. If you'd like to come ahead of time, we will also have an opportunity ahead of time to meet for you all as board members in our URAC to Urban Renewal Advisory Committee to come ahead of time, see the presentation, see the roles, ask some questions. and participate. Whether you wanted to stick around and get some first-person interaction, you're welcome to do so, but it is an opportunity for you to meet with the project team in person, ask some questions, look at the materials, and we want to get your input once again, and also equip you with some of the things that we expect to hear from the public. We've just produced, well, our social media is starting to roll out now. The city e-news is out. We've had an article in the paper. We've been on the radio. I think there's probably some more things in there, but that's all in progress. We have a scheduled communication platform that is going to roll out and ramp up to the point where we get to the meeting. We've also started engaging or been working on food and beverage that from some of the Heights businesses. It's a way to kind of build this community event as not just a engineering, architecture, planning lecture. We want to celebrate together as community and get some of the businesses to engage as well. So it's kind of a dual purpose for the businesses to be able to showcase their wares, to have them really become invested and to build the community event. So we're excited about that. And we have Alex Dupuy from MIG on. Alex has been pretty instrumental in getting some of the communication matters together, coordinating with Nubia Contreras and Paige Rouse of our team. Real quick, we will have all our product will go out in English and Spanish. Again, I was on Radio Tierra on Saturday, which I think went decent. We didn't get booed, so but I think it was pretty good. I did end with free tacos, which I was told was going to really raise my ratings. So so we're excited about that. Alex, you have anything to share? Jump in whenever.
No, sure. I think that's great. Thank you, Dustin. And thanks for the time tonight. I'm sitting in for Nathan this evening, so I'll do my best to, mimic him. In terms of the open house and the survey, we have, as Dustin mentioned, we have two different times for the open house, Friday at 5 to 9 on the 22nd, I believe, and then Saturday 10 to 2. And really the focus of those two meetings is to try and capture different audiences, potentially. We're hoping that this is going to be, particularly with food and drink, be a pretty family-friendly event. So it's drop-in. People will be able to grab food and a beverage and be able to talk to staff and community members and just about the different alternatives and what is proposed out there, and then to also be able to provide input. So the format for both of those meetings will be the same, and essentially what we'll do at the 5 to 9 session is have long strip maps on tables where people can provide input and talk about different features of it. We'll keep that from 5 to 9 and essentially just roll that right into the 10 to 2 work session. So we'll have a single response essentially from those two meetings, which will be nice because people will see those comments built up onto the maps over both of those events. As essentially a preamble to it, we're also going to be launching an online survey, and we're hoping to have that go live this Friday. And so that'll be a similar format to what we had last time, where it's that map-based survey. There's also going to be a budgeting exercise in there as well, too, to have people, we're getting to the point now where we need to start thinking about where we focus and where we want to prioritize. And so we're hoping that that will be a way for people to be able to tell us, really what's most important to them as we get into that recommended alternative. So that'll go live Friday and go for about 3 weeks. So we'll keep it open for a couple weeks after the open house, and both will be in English and Spanish. And so you'll see a lot of social media coming out. You'll see postcards for the survey. We'll be releasing that this week, and then you'll also see postcards for the open house because we're staggering those a little bit. We're doing a couple different releases. But yeah, it should be fun. We're really hoping that you can be there for at least part of it. It should be a good event just to get out and talk to folks. And we've definitely had a lot of interest already. Some people very excited and some people with a lot of concerns. So we're looking forward to, answering questions as best we can and getting all of that input before we get into the next phase. So I think that's it. Happy to talk more about it, or hopefully we'll see you in person in just a couple weeks. If it doesn't snow again.
So the survey also gives opportunity for people who can't appear in person to continue to engage. So it serves as advance notice, but it also does give people an opportunity to participate who can't be there or don't feel comfortable being there in person. It's just another avenue for us to collect input. Yeah, I think we're hoping to see more of this material ramp up. And we have kind of a busy schedule. It's busy summer or spring season, I guess. And we do want to make sure that as we get closer to the event, we're keeping that in people's mind. So I anticipate being on the ground with paper postcards here. And I'll personally deliver all of them to every business that fronts on the street, whether they accept them or not, just because I want to make sure that we have that opportunity to have that first person engagement. And although many of them have been notified via email and through the parking study, we ask for input there. I want to make sure that we really have that first person interaction on the record for all the opportunities and all the things that we've done so far. I don't want that to be a step. So, it'll be next Friday and Saturday, and we're looking forward to seeing you all there. So if you have any questions, happy to take comments. The role plots that Alex had mentioned are in your packet. It's just an opportunity for you to see what the public is going to see in large format. I think we should also have some video by the time we get to the open house. I really like that as a preamble to what we're looking at. It gives some of the backstory of the Heights. It's going to be voiced over in English with Spanish subtitles. So it's an opportunity, much like, I kind of use the Maryhill example. You go there, you watch the video, it's 2.5 minutes, and then you go through the museum itself. It's an opportunity to get people who may have not been engaged whatsoever or have no interest in the Heights to try to bring them up to speed in 2 minutes or less to be a part of this conversation.
Yep.
That's our open house starter.
Should be fun.
Great. Questions? I'm going to Mark and then Megan.
Yeah, thanks, guys. This is gonna rock. This is gonna rock. I'm excited about it. A question and a comment. Question is, Dustin, you said that we could show up a little bit earlier and get our team vibe going. What's a little earlier? Is that 5 to 5 or 4:30 or what?
I think we were thinking the hour before, 4 to 5, before general public was there. You have a full. You don't have to show up together. It's just something we wanted to give you undivided attention, and it gives us an opportunity to have the last dress rehearsal too.
And is it programmed starting at 4, or is it sort of drop in sometime between the kind of?
It's not a, it is more of a true open house. So there won't be a programmed every half hour session, for example. So I think, feel free to, if you want to drop in early, whatever works for you. And that's how we'll be doing it for the, the evening and the next morning as well too. So we'll have the video, but it's pretty much kind of come and spend as much time as you want.
Okay, cool. And then the snacks will be open at that time.
Good priority.
While supplies last. So.
And then my comment, and this is sort of reading the tea leaves of the community concerns that we're hearing a little bit, is that there's very little, what are these alternatives relative to the current state of things? The conflated concern is that all these alternatives make things way worse than it is now, right? And I noticed on one of the charts on page 15 has the current versus the alternatives, and that's the kind of information that I think is super important. That what we have now is a whole bunch of red lights, and what we are offering is a way to get to a whole bunch of green lights. And I think that the more we can have stuff there to show them that all of these alternatives have significant advantages over the status quo, it'll help our case. So at least be prepared to talk about that, with information on the side that no, in all these things, these alternatives are an improvement over what we have now. So
yeah. That's a great point. And we have been getting comments through the website as well too, because people can provide input on that. And, and not surprisingly, parking is a big concern. I think, that will be a question we'll hear a lot about during both the survey and the open houses. I think it's important to remember, and this is something we can talk to people as well too, is that the adopted plan does, change the street to some degree for bike lanes. And so the parking question in particular is one that we want to make sure that we're very clear about when we talk about, potential impacts and what that means. All of the projects, all of the alternatives have different choices. And that's really what we want to get to with the community is, what are choices? What are the most important pieces or choices that we want to make?
It's parking and throughput, right? If I'm going to Odell, how much does this change my path or vice versa, right? So.
Very true.
Thanks, Mark. Megan?
I have a question, but I'm just going off of Mark's stuff and your point of the current TSB changes things from existing conditions. And I think for the general public, that's a really obscure public policy thing. If we've got an adopted plan and it does something different and no one really knows that. And so I think being really clear of existing conditions in the like red light, green light thing isn't existing conditions today, but is there is no scenario where the height doesn't change in some form, I guess, and making that very clear just for the sake of everyone actually talking about the same thing.
That's a great point. Thank you.
Yes, thank you. And then my question is so we got the big packet with all the different memos of a lot of really good, but kind of overwhelming and very detailed information about how viable or how desirable all these different bits and pieces of every different alternative on each street and intersection is. And some of that, like you can look really good on the map and say, oh, it's really cool. But some of that really says, maybe that's not actually going to work the way we think it is. Like, how will that information get shared to the general public or be used to so folks are giving informed feedback instead of just saying that map looks great, I love it, and assuming it's going to work?
And there's a few different layers, I think, to the kind of the portrayal of the analysis and kind of the level of input that we're looking for. Certainly with the evaluation memo, that's very dense, from parking and traffic to design considerations. If a person wanted to get into the detail, that information is certainly there. I think what we've tried to do with the information for both the survey and the community, community open house is to be able to give enough information, but keep it to a point where people can make still informed decisions on major issues that we heard primarily from the first survey, which is, we want slower traffic that's safer for bicycles and pedestrians. We want a more improved streetscape that's attractive for both pedestrians, but supports businesses as well too. And so I think that's what we've really tried to do, and to actually get away from that red light and green light a little bit with the public meeting materials, is look at it more as a range, because they are all choices. And I think that helps from a non-technical audience, helps, not feel so kind of bogged down with 200 pages of evaluation material. And so I think that's where we're really trying to go, is to be able to provide enough information and make decisions without making people feel overwhelmed about all of that background work, which is important, but not necessarily something you're going to sit down at the kitchen table and spend the evening looking through.
Thank you.
Jessica?
I was just wondering, besides, helping share the news about the event, is there anything else we can do to be helpful? I think at the very, very first one of these, we actually were like note takers, or that was like almost 4 years ago.
We've actually tasked the URAC with some of that. A number of them are local business owners, so that creates a nice bridge. I think they have all agreed to be there the whole time.
Wow.
So we've graciously accepted their volunteerism, but they've been wanting to get involved. Again, they are low. A number of them are locally based businesses, So we will be using them to help inform you all. We absolutely encourage you to be there, but I think spreading the word is important.
Mhm.
We're really trying to drive attendance, and so you being physically present is a great thing. You letting your communities and network of people know is also going to be really important. That's the big push in the next 10 days, is to get the word out, and because this is really an important opportunity for the public to really engage with the project team, to really put their fingerprint on this, to make sure that the goals that the agency has adopted really start materializing in these pictures. Even though we may not be talking about vehicle to capacity ratios with them, does it start to look and feel like a place that you call home, that you travel through, that you do business, that you visit? Does this start to become, what do you like, what do you not like about this? I think that's really what we're trying to get from the community.
And you'll be seeing, in terms of getting the word out, you'll be seeing, a lot of, Facebook posts through the city website and others. If you can cross post to your own, constituency or other Facebook heads, that's a great way to keep getting the word out. And you'll be seeing weekly, I think we already have one out. You'll be seeing weekly posts, starting with the open house now, going into the survey after that, and then both, for those final weeks, and then just the survey after that. So just keep cross posting, and whether it's Facebook or Instagram, or, if you got grandkids on TikTok or kids, make them do it
Is
as well.
anything going to be in the Hood River News? Do you have any idea?
We already had something in the newspaper a couple of weeks ago.
Not next week, as far as you know.
I don't think next week. Noah had done a piece on it, and we gave him some information on that, and then we've seen some echoes from the editorial. I support any awareness, whether you love this project or you think it's a nightmare. I absolutely, as long as there's community conversation, we want community conversation with it. So we support you echoing.
Tim, did you have anything?
Looking towards the other end of the process, how do you expect to roll up and characterize the input that you get?
So we'll do a couple different things. We'll have the peer survey results, which is actually fairly similar to what you saw last time as the outcomes from that. We'll also have all of the open house information. And so typically what we'll do for that, just kind of give you a sense, we'll have these long roll maps with sticky notes or dot exercises for voting. All of that is summarized. Well, first we transcribe it, then it's summarized, and then we'll pull out key issues or other specific elements. So you'll have the raw information photographed and transcribed from the open house, and then there'll be a key summary elements out of that as a way to start to synthesize that information. So we'll do that for both the survey and the open house, and then we'll start having conversations internally about what that starts to look like for a recommended alternative. Which pieces can come together that make the most sense, and a lot of that will be based on public input, some of it technical analysis, but that's typically how we use that information to show transparency through a process, and then back in front of you to talk again about that.
Since the information that you're going to gather is going to be largely related to the questions you ask, is there any particular outcomes that you expect?
I expect a lot of hearty conversation about parking and about how the main pieces of the road are used, primarily the parking areas and the through lanes. I think those are going to be ones that people will be particularly interested about. I know we'll also have a lot of conversation about pedestrian traffic, particularly that east-west, how people get back and forth to schools, how do you access those businesses or, upcoming housing in the area. And so I think those will be probably the hardiest conversations. There could certainly be others, but I think the goal for this is to be able to provide some directed questions that help us get to whatever that recommended alternative looks like in the future, but also leave it open-ended enough that people can provide input in whatever way they want to. And I think that's the great thing about meeting in person is we can have a conversation and we can get it down. And that may not even be a question. It may just be, I've lived here for 60 years and I want to see this, or it used to be like this and I really like that, or I really didn't like that. And those are the types of really rich conversations that we'll be documenting through the open house.
Yeah, I think that's, for those who are watching and or will join in, this is part 2 of part 3. So the goal here is to have the input from technical, from community, from all our stakeholding, regulatory communities to help inform a final design. So we've gone from goals at the highest level, aspirations, to concepts, which we think in various ways embody those goals, to a final design, which we think is now the trade-off, the blend, the feasibility that takes all our various aspirations of what we love, what we want, what we don't want, and distills it to this final version of what we're going to pursue. In terms of questions that I anticipate, I expect a lot of the questions that you have is the idea of change. We're thinking about this, a lot of times we can think about how are things today or how have things been in the past. We're looking, in a lot of ways to traffic models that reach out to 2039, 2040. So that's what's going to change. We're going to pursue another 20 years of growth, of change, of things that it will change whether we do anything or not. And I think we're going to have a lot of conversations about that. Because that really impacts how things will function, the intersections, the traffic counts, that really will come to manifest in those conversations. So I think we've had some of them already. I've had some of them with our traffic engineers when it says, why does this not work? And it's, okay, remember, we're looking at this as a planning exercise 20, 30 years into the future.
Mm-hmm.
So I expect that to be a lot of conversation.
Yep.
All right, Gladys, and then Eric.
Yeah, I don't want to repeat any of the questions that my peers have already asked. I just wanted to say thank you so much for all this hard work. It's exciting to see that we are at a point where we're really engaging our constituents in person, or community members in person. As Megan pointed out, a lot of this is heavy material and some folks may not fully comprehend if they haven't been following the project from the beginning. So I do appreciate the fact that there's an opportunity for an in-person background education and a very interactive way for participants to give their feedback. I also enjoy that this is partnered with food, and that is it's a celebration, right? That we want to normalize more activities like this. So I'd like to really ask the entire team, how can we replicate this model for other opportunities or other projects that we have where we are engaging our community members? I hope to figure out what worked well at these events and then what we can do better, just so that we can continue this type of engagement with our community members. So thank you, Dustin. Thank you, Alex. Great work.
Thanks, Councilor Rivera. I think that, I think the point particularly is what works and what doesn't. We always like to do a post project or post event, kind of debrief. And, that it's really important to kind of think about, how well you're doing something or where you could improve on that. And so we're hoping that you can attend and, tell us as well, because we're always looking to do better. And we get to be in person, that's the exciting part. So.
And that we're collaborating and leveraging our partnerships with other agencies to maximize that outreach and then maximize the engagement. So again, I'm really, really excited about this. Great work.
Thank you.
Eric?
Oh, sorry. I was just
There you
saying,
go. There you
nothing
go.
further from me that hasn't already been said. I particularly like Gladys's comments there as well. Thank you.
Great. I only have one technical question. I know we're not supposed to get in the weeds, but I have to ask this. Conditions for people driving, traffic volume development, and then there were, a bunch of studies were done to get us the numbers, and they're into the future, 2039. So was the new Mount Adams connector factored into people using that instead of coming up 13th or not?
That's a John Bosket level question. So the good news is DKS, who did the study, runs our model. And
Right.
the entire TSP, it should be incorporated into that as a part of a system plan.
But you could check that. I don't need an
I-
answer today. I just wondered, that was one of the things that came to my mind when I saw this.
No, I could confirm that with John.
Okay, great. Yeah, Megan asked the question I was going to ask, so. Great. That sounds wonderful. I'll try to be there, and I'm sure it'll be very interesting. There's so much detail in this packet that we got last Thursday. I read through the whole thing, and there is a lot of stuff in the weeds. You know, this is, you know, might work, this probably won't work, but if you do this, it's going to cause this. And so there was a lot of stuff in the weeds, but it was very interesting reading. So
Well, thank you all,
Thanks.
and look forward to seeing you Friday. Please let me know if we can help, or if you have any questions. If you want source materials, I'd be happy to send you postcards, analog postcards. We have translations. We'll have translators on site. I think at least 2 of them. So if you want translation services, let me know.
Thank you.
thanks, Dustin. Thanks, Alex.
Thank you, everybody. See you in a couple weeks.
All right.
Bye.
Any items from agency members this evening that have to do with urban renewal? I don't see anybody nodding their head. Oh,
Madam Mayor?
Eric, go ahead.
Yes, this is a little off topic, but since this is the Urban Renewal Agency meeting, I thought I might mention it. I've had a little outreach with some folks with the port who are feeling nervous about the concept of winding down the Port Urban Renewal District. And I guess I just wanted to communicate that. I was going to share it at council call, but as we go through that decision-making process, I guess I just wanted to encourage us all to make sure we hear out whatever the port may have in terms of its potential concerns about winding down that district. And of course, we've had long discussions about the need to do that if we're going to, or potentially if we're going to open up a West Side Urban Renewal District. So I just, as a council person, I haven't necessarily been privy to all the conversations between the staffs of the 2 agencies, but I just had the potential perception that they had a voice that wasn't being heard necessarily. So I just wanted to encourage us as we move forward on that to make sure we're engaging with the port. And I'm certainly have to be part of that. I guess I'm just trying to communicate that I've just had the sense from maybe some port commissioners and the executive director that they're feeling like they would like some opportunity for input.
So I think, Will, did you want to address that?
Yes, so the executive director of the port, Michael McElway, is expected to give a presentation at the May 11th meeting. Our Renewal Agency to give an update on Lot 1 infrastructure framework planning, and to, I think, discuss, they would like to take on the analysis of what it would look like to expand or to extend the district in order to fund investments that they would like to see on Lot 1. That is not prioritized for city staff resources right now. So I think they're going to want to take that. They're willing to take that on their own. So they're going to, we asked them to, before they begin on that project on their own, to come check in with the Urban Renewal Agency, because obviously it is your agency and your plan.
Mark?
Yeah, just a question for Eric is, I've been shocked that they haven't come and talked to us about it. And maybe you got some clues from your discussions with some of them of why they've not said anything for 2 years.
Yeah, you know, and I did, that topic did come up, and I think there might just be maybe a kind of a structural disconnect where the port operates in its sphere and we operate in our sphere. And one of the things that's sort of been on my mind is, you know, this may be just one example of a larger problem of a lack of connectivity in terms of, you know, just engagement and kind of knowing what the other agency is doing. And frankly, is a really important topic because, you know, kind of looking ahead 10 years, if the bridge is replaced and the bridge revenue decreases, I sort of see the footprint of the port and what it does for the community. for example, maintaining Waterfront Park. I mean, I could see a certain degree of needing to come together with the port if the city wants the port to continue in its kind of current constituency with all the revenue it has today that it won't have 10 years from now. So that's, I guess, just stepping back and really trying to address your point, Mark, which I think is well taken. Why haven't we heard from them? I think it might be that there's just kind of a disconnect between the agencies that reflects, I mean, this has been here historically. I think I've perceived that long before I was on council, but it might be a topic worth addressing more generally is what can we do to improve that? But to answer your question specifically, I'm not sure. I think they might be equally surprised that we haven't engaged with them.
Well, I think that when we get the presentation, that'll be an opportunity to talk about potential or not for doing anything different down there besides closing it. Because, there isn't any more funds. The funds are being spent on the stormwater. So, unless it's increased or the district dissolved and kind of reformed, so to speak, and starting over, there isn't any more money. And then the other taxing districts would have to agree that they're okay with that. And then the West Side District too, if we form that. So I think, we'll have a discussion, but it's good to get an update from them. And if they haven't asked, then, I think that that when Michael McKelvey came to Will, talk to Will and talk to Abigail, correct? Yeah.
That's correct.
Yeah, that they said you need to come to Urban Renewal Board and pitch your piece here and see, because we don't want to just say, well, go ahead and talk to Elaine Howard and see how much it would cost. Because if there isn't an appetite for doing that for one reason or another, then that would be a waste of their time and money too. So I think that that's why they're going to come and give us an update. All right. Anything else from anyone? All right. We're going to close the Urban Renewal Agency meeting and reopen the City Council meeting at 6:40. And we have, I think, 2 people that want to speak on business from the audience. Is it Sarah Wolf first?
Yes.
Jen?
Hi there, can you hear me?
Yes, we can hear you. Go ahead. You have 3 minutes.
Thank you. Hi, Mayor McBride and councilors. My name is Sarah Wolf, and I'm a resident of Hood River. Thanks for your time tonight. I would like to call your attention tonight to the legislation that Congressman Blumenauer and Senator Wyden have put forth to protect and better manage parts of the Mount Hood National Forest. The current management plan was written in the 80s and it's outdated, and a new plan and strategy are severely needed. So this proposed legislation addresses rapidly growing traffic and recreation in the area. It supports more sustainable and equitable access to outdoor recreation, including much needed trail maintenance and infrastructure updates that are needed to support transportation and public safety as well. It also prioritizes and protects tribal treaty rights and increases wildfire planning and mitigation. It protects our rivers and waterways, and in turn protects both water quality and supply in the Hood River Valley, including for irrigation. We live in a really beautiful place, and a place that I think is really special, and feel that it's at risk of being sort of loved to death as more and more people come every day and every year to recreate around here. And I feel that having a new management plan that takes into account all of today's challenges and needs is very important, and a plan that's also backed by the current science and that will protect both wild spaces and natural resources for a long, long time. So that's all I have to say. I just want to urge the commission to support these legislative efforts. Thank you.
Thank you, Sarah. Appreciate you giving us your opinion. Our next person is Peter Cornelison.
Good evening, councilors. My name is Peter Cornelison. I live at 1003 5th Street, which is the southeast corner of 5th and June in the Heights. And I want to congratulate the city for its continued focus on its greenhouse gas goals. This is really where the rubber meets the road, and the city's road towards zero emissions is looking pretty good. To drop 26% in emissions from 2018 when the resolution was passed to 2016 is awesome. And the goal of reducing by 70% by 2035 is also great, but it leaves that pesky 30%. The remaining 30% is just under 400 metric tons per person of greenhouse gas emissions, which sounds like a lot, but when you put it into perspective, the per capita US emissions figure is 18 to 16 metric tons per person. So it's really not that much for the city to get that remaining 400 metric tons per year. Some possibilities to reduce or eliminate the remainder could be using biodiesel for some of the city's big rigs, like the fire department, heating city buildings using heat pumps, which would use less natural gas, adding more solar, especially to the fire department roof, which is huge and only has minimal number of panels, and new technology that might not be available yet. So I'm hopeful that the city can meet the zero emissions goal and maybe even become a net positive generator of electricity. I'll be interested to listen to the staff report and learn what else is being planned. I know some of the items just spoken about are being contemplated. Hood River is leading the Gorge community, and so far we're setting a great example. Thank you.
Thank you, Peter. Appreciate it. So I'm going to go ahead and open the work session. Do we have any agenda additions or corrections?
No, we do not.
Right. And so straight into the subject that Peter was talking about, a discussion item, energy and emissions assessment. Haley.
Thank you. Can you guys hear me okay?
We can hear you, yeah.
All right, I'm going to share my screen. Is everybody seeing that?
Yes.
All right, so like Peter and the mayor mentioned, I'm here to give you just a basic update on our energy and emissions assessment for 2021. That's all the data that's included in here. I will give you another update with 2022 next year. So in general, this project falls under the council work plan goal of creating a more environmentally sustainable community. The purpose of this assessment is to, one, evaluate the annual energy use and emissions for city-owned buildings and fleet compared to our 2018 baseline, and review how current and proposed future energy-saving projects can reduce energy use and emissions and help the city meet its goal of being at net zero emissions by 2035. So those graphs just show our total energy use and total emissions. You'll notice that 2020 was a little bit deflated based off of 2019 and 2021 totals. I'm contributing that to COVID-19 impacts, decrease in tourism, amount of staff and visitors in city facilities, anything like that. Is just kind of a weird year, as you guys all know. So this is where that 70% comes in, our current progress. And this is with the projects that we have identified as potentials. So this 30% will be everything that we don't know yet. And that could be that new market trends, alternative fuels, anything like that. Here is our list of both completed and in-process projects. And you can see over here, I've noted whether it's completed, in process, or just proposed. So there's a number at both the wastewater treatment plant and fire and EMS. These come from both city suggestions and suggestions from the site assessments that we are working on completing. And I'm hoping to get those reports soon. But I want to note on this that any sort of carbon offset that could be available in the future in the form of a blue sky program, a potential green tariff that's been mentioned at a couple meetings, those were not included in this analysis. And so they're not included past 2024. So that could also contribute to reducing that 30% along with other projects. I didn't include them just because I'm really uncertain of what they could actually look like. And that'll be a very slow process to figure out what that could look like. These graphs here show our energy use and combined emissions by building in terms of the wastewater treatment plant, because that is by far our largest user, all other buildings, and then fuel, which is our other large user. So it's just a breakdown by year. Our progress to 2035. So this I want to note, kind of like I said in your guys' council cover letter, our biggest drop in emissions will be shown from 2022 to 2025. After that point, our actual energy use remains relatively steady, but as specific power becomes more clean and they transition to more renewable sources, our emissions will drop. So our emissions are that gray line. So even though our power use is remaining steady, our emissions are significantly dropping. And that's pretty much what this says down here. So with that, greater short-term emission reduction can be realized by implementing energy-saving projects that use Pacific Power as an energy source within the next few years. And that is due to Northwest Natural and Fuel not having the technology available on the market in the way that we need it to significantly reduce. That would be medium and heavy duty electric vehicles, more alternative fuels, renewable natural gas, anything like that. Those markets aren't available to us at this time. So that is why you can see here that our Pacific Power dropped significantly, while the others remain really static. Some of our next steps: monitoring savings from existing projects and implementing proposed energy saving projects as approved by you, the council. Updating the energy and emissions assessment annually and reviewing city progress to the net zero by 2035 goal. And in the future, we'll evaluate and recommend potential energy saving projects, especially projects that would decrease energy use from natural gas and fuel. Monitor potential energy offsets, such as the Pacific Power Green Tariff Program, and determine long-term actions needed to meet the city's net zero by 2035 goal. And that is what I have for you. Do you have any questions?
Thank you, Haley. Appreciate it. Questions? Jim, you got some?
Well, first of all, thank you so much for that presentation. It was, it's really great to see the progress that we're making. The issue with the fleet and the diesel, I'm wondering if there isn't some way that we can explore more thoroughly the use of renewable diesel, which is being used in some other markets, to kind of transition from where we're at right now to an electric fleet. So it's kind of proposed or being touted as a way to actually do that transition. So are you familiar with the renewable diesel?
I am. I've done a lot of research on the renewable diesel itself. I've been monitoring that bill that actually failed in the legislative session that would have required research of renewable diesel. And I've been talking to actually the city of Portland. They're considering renewable diesel for their fleet transition until medium and heavy duty vehicles are available. So I'm working with their fleet manager to see how they're transitioning and how we could implement that on a much smaller scale.
That's yeah, go ahead.
Oh, it is something that I have been looking at.
No, that's great. I think, looking at kind of the last graph that you put there where the the bars are remaining relatively static. That might be some way to actually reduce the contribution of some of our larger vehicle fleet emissions. So as much as we can continue to explore that.
Yes, we will continue. And as you know, it is something that's on the Energy Council's work plan as well. So that is something that we can use them to assist us.
Thank you so much, Haley.
Yeah.
Megan?
I think two questions. So I guess similarly, the bar doesn't ever change the natural gas end, which I assume is mostly for heat. I guess is there a way, or what level of technology is there to transition our use of natural gas to another fuel source?
So we could transition over to electric. I've started looking into electric for cold weather because we do get some colder winters. Those technologies aren't super commercially available at this point. So I'm doing some research and looking at them specifically for the cold winter season. So it doesn't use as much electricity going through, and just trying to figure out what the best technology would be for that.
Okay, thank you. And then obviously it's not on the list of proposed projects, but is there a place, or where would it be? I think we'd said like we were gonna look at cogen again in a couple of years. Like, is that still an option on the table potentially?
That is an option, and it's something that I continue to look at as the wastewater treatment plant as a full facility. So as I look at these projects that are being proposed, I'm considering space, things like that. Energy Trust of Oregon is still looking at those feasibility studies that we did. So it's still out there, and it's being considered kind of on the sidelines of all of this as we finish the projects that are in process down at the plant.
Okay, thanks. And I guess that, yeah, the proposed solar expansion wouldn't negate the ability to do cogen if it were to work out in a few years?
No, it shouldn't. There should be enough space.
Okay, great. Thank you.
Jessica, question?
Not a question, but thank you, Haley. And I guess just more of a comment, looking through what we've done and where the energy usage and the emissions has changed. It's really been the wastewater treatment plant, which is, so much, multiples of the other energy providers. So, I mean, that makes sense. Just kind of an observation. But I think it's a great job for all that staff has done to really make improvements there. Thank you, Haley.
Thank you.
Gladys?
Yeah, Haley, thank you so much for this work. I have a couple questions for you. How are we providing this education awareness to our community members? Specifically wondering if you've partnered with Nubia to get on the air just to talk to community members about what does our energy plan mean? What does it mean that we want to be net zero by 2035 is my first question.
So I have done nothing yet. I wanted to share with you guys first. I do plan to share this information as well with the Energy Council.
Okay.
And then anything beyond that, I'm happy to do.
Great. In your packet, or the packet that was provided to us, there's specific projects such as solar panels, weather stripping. And so I wondered, how do we talk to or provide these sorts of resources and information to our community members so that they too are thinking about energy efficiency projects in the home? There are specific programs here in the Gorge that do provide those sorts of resources. So just thinking of how we can leverage our partnerships to bring that sort of awareness to constituents. And similar to what Councillor Cunahan mentioned, as we continue growing here in the city, thinking about what else we as a city can do to incentivize energy efficient efforts. Those are all my questions. Thank you.
All right, thank you. Yeah, I will work with Nubia and city staff to see what we can come up with.
And I was just going to mention one thing for you, Gladys, that we're working with the next door to work on a Solarize campaign right now that's going to be coming out within the next 2 or 3 weeks. And then there's going to be some educational, I believe 6 educational, 1 in person and 5 Zoom, different kind of educational seminars, I guess you might call them, for people. And it's really specifically about whether if you want to get solar panels, but there will be somebody there from Energy Trust. And so they'll, you know, if someone wants to talk about weatherization and how do I do that? How do I get a hold of somebody? How does it work? There'll be somebody to answer those questions too. And we are going to be targeting the Latino community specifically. And that's one of the reasons we have Nextdoor. So that's coming up very soon. So you'll be hearing more about that part.
That's exciting. Thank you for that update. They also do weather stripping projects with the Native American community. And I know that Dawn's on that team there at the Nextdoor and can bring that awareness as well. So thank you.
Mark?
Yeah, thanks. Just to that last point, you know, the net zero by 35, just to remind everyone, is for the municipality, and then the Energy Council, with the city being a partner, should and I think it's exciting to reach out to community members to see how we can do stuff as a community. So, but they're 2 separate things in my head anyway. So Haley, could you confirm that the offsets we've done to date are show up as the reduction in electricity use on these charts, or are offsets not shown at all?
So the offsets are shown here in these charts.
Can next time you do this, could you show us offsets as opposed to use? Because we have this 30% we're going to need to cover, and that's going to mean growing offsets beyond the other stuff. So if they're in there, that's great. I can't see it. So, you know, we should be able to see both sides of the ledger here. And so next time, if you could do that, that would be very useful.
Definitely, I can do that.
If you go to that final chart thing, which I thought was really good, again, please.
This one?
No, that one. It shows gasoline not changing at all. And I think by 2035, gasoline should go to 0. You know, diesel's a toughie, and you know, the biodiesel options and stuff, we'll see what that is. But I mean, this doesn't show any plan, or it doesn't, I mean, it's hard to see in the graph, of course, but it does. We should be able to project that every new car we get is a hybrid, and then every new car we get is an electric, and that turnover is probably by 2035, which is, you know, 13 years from now. So that's something there. Diesel, I think also, you know, medium duty, you could buy a Ford medium duty electric pickup truck today. I don't know if it's economically feasible, but they exist. And then here we should also see the offsets growing. You know, we're going to have to find offsets that make up that last 30%. So if on this chart there was another line that was, you know, going above these things so that it, you know, the net result is 0, that's what I would like to see, because that'll give us pressure to focus on the things that get us to net 0, as opposed to just how are we doing with cutting stuff. And then, you know, I do think that, you know, heat pumps are ridiculously efficient now, and they're probably getting more efficient. So saying that we can't cut, this shows natural gas being flat. I think that's a misnomer as well. And I bet it's even in our capital plans for some buildings, and that we should show some improvement there. My expectation, and if we saw the offset charts, it would be in here, would be that the real trick is going to be that diesel one, because heavy equipment is just going to be hard to offset. but I can't really see that in the materials presented, and that's what we're going to show to people. So next time around, if you could show that, that would be awesome.
I can do that, definitely.
Will?
Yeah, just step in real quick, just for a clarification on the methodology. Something that we asked Haley to specifically structure this analysis was off of known and existing technologies and not making assumptions as to what technologies may exist in 2030 or past. There is the assumption in here that we switch all of our light duty trucks to electric vehicles. That is in the chart. We have very few light duty trucks. We're mostly heavy duty trucks for plowing. So that is in there.
And I'm going to talk to Will and Abigail, which I have already talked to Abigail a little bit, and she may have mentioned it to Will, that we have, and Haley knows about this, Eric Strid has sent us some information that's kind of some wonky charts that are hard to understand a bit. But I'd like us to be able to, as a council, look at those, and maybe Eric can meet with Will, and they could he could explain to Will how they work, and then Will can explain it to us. But he has a lot of, business as usual chart. And then if you move this, 5% or 10%, if you do this particular thing, then this is the difference it'll make. So hopefully within the next couple months, maybe we'll be able to have a very short presentation that will give us a little bit more detail into some of that information. Eric?
Nothing more from me on this. Thank you.
All right. Thank you, Haley. That was very informative. Go ahead, Will.
I just wanted to say a big thank you to Haley. I'm just very impressed with this analysis. There's so many cities that make these goals and pass these resolutions. Very few track as accurately, I think, as we do. And I would say I've never seen a city of our size track as accurately as we do. So I just wanted to acknowledge that and thank Haley for her good work on this.
Thank you.
I'm going to also say thank you to Haley. And I also, not to fully pat ourselves on the back, we have more work to do, but I do want to just give credit to all city staff of, that's a lot of good progress in a few years and a lot of good projected progress for the, I feel like the time frame we tend to plan in of the next 3 years. And so I have a lot of hope that as new technologies arise and we come up with new plans, the next few years after that and the next planning horizon looks great, but it's super great to see something to celebrate. We are making good progress. So thank you.
Yeah, I definitely want to second that. And I want to acknowledge Will's statement that there are a lot of folks that set these type of goals that are not really tracking their progress and actually making progress towards them. So yeah, kudos to everybody. Still some more work to do, but we can do it.
Yeah, I think, we got to push from the high school kids. We got to push from the Energy Council when that first started. And then the council formed and which we needed, which was great. But we took it to heart and, we made resolutions and we're doing it. So, I think kudos to everyone involved in all of this over the last few years that, we're serious. And the staff is really serious about it. And if the staff was not, if we were saying we want to do this and the staff was not serious and keeps looking for these opportunities, we wouldn't be where we are. So thanks, staff, for being all in on it. Appreciate it. All right. Let's see. We'll adjourn the work session and open the regular council meeting. Do we have any agenda additions or corrections? No? Okay. We have a consent agenda with meeting minutes from 2 meetings, an amendment to an engineering contract with HEH, intergovernmental agreement for signalization of Cascade and Rand, and a fire engine purpose. Does anyone need to pull anything off or recuse himself?
I just have a question, but I don't think I need to pull it off.
Okay, go ahead.
Just with the ODOT IGA, I got a little confused. Is ODOT going to be responsible for the curb ramps or is the city?
So ODOT is going to be responsible for the ramps within their portion, which is most of the ramps. There's some over by Walmart as well. There were Wasco.
Okay. That might have cleared it up. Yeah, I was like saying both people are responsible at various points, and I
Yeah.
got myself
Yeah,
confused.
nothing changes.
Okay, great. And then I know the amount we have to pay changed between the last IGA and this. Was that already known, or I know
Yeah,
you said the funding approval is coming later, but did that
it
increase
was.
again since the last time I remember this?
The last time we talked about it, I think it was at 3.4. And now it's at 3.6. I'm not sure when that changed because I was surprised that's what was in the STIP, but I guess we're months away from finding out what the real numbers are as they finish out the right of way and get the bids in.
Okay, thank you.
I have a question about that too. Similar to Counselor Saunders, I had a hard time tracking signals, power costs, lights, curb ramps, maintenance, ODOT, us. So maybe having, Will does such a great job of creating these sheets that let me visually see what we're supposed to pay, what they're going to pay, and then the updates and the maintenance and what that looks like. It was really hard tracking in here where it was, this shall be deleted, this is what's getting entered. It was hard to track that.
It got better. You believe me, it was worse than that initially.
But thank you though.
So, but as you're saying, next time, if we can get something just a little bit more visual, or, maybe a bullet
Yeah.
point, something to make it a little clearer.
Yeah, there was a lot of language that I ended up having to write down. Okay, what are we paying versus what are they paying? What are we going to maintain versus what they're going to maintain?
Basically, we're splitting the operations of the signals for electricity. We are maintaining a couple of ramps on our right of way. They're maintaining 4 on theirs, and we're paying for electricity to the classic lights.
Okay.
That's pretty much the breakdown.
Okay. Thank you.
Any other questions? Do I have a motion for the consent agenda?
I will move we approve the consent agenda.
I second.
I have a motion from Megan and a second from Gladys to approve the consent agenda. Any additional discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Abstentions? Chair votes aye. All right, regular business items. City Budget Committee appointments.
Yeah, thank you, Mayor and City Council. We're getting into budget season, about to start up, and one of the things we try to do is keep a full budget committee. So we noticed we had our vacancies in the Columbia Gorge News, city website, social media, city emails, and also featured it in volunteer opportunities in our city's 2022 spring newsletter. We received 2, I think, well-qualified applicants. I believe one is with us today, and another one is on virtually with us. If you'd like to interview them, given that we have fewer candidates than vacancies, it would be up to the City Council. With that, leave it up to you. What would you like to do?
Yeah, usually, I appoint them with your blessing, but we do the interviews. And we have the applications here. And so I just said, well, I'm going to leave it up to the council. They can decide if you want to actually do an interview. We have some interview questions that we normally ask, or we can just appoint. So it's a thoughts.
I think the resumes look like they're well qualified. I'm comfortable just appointing without the interview.
Okay.
I agree.
You're good too, Megan. Okay. Mark?
Yeah, I agree with that as well.
Okay, and I think Gladys said yes, is that correct? And Councillor Haney?
Yep, that's fine with me. I mean, I wouldn't offend me to just hear a remark from each one for an introduction, but that's fine.
Okay, and I'm great with that too, but I think it would be great to meet these people in person. So if we can have each of the candidates step up to the podium so that we can say hello to you, that would be great. So we have one here in person. So why don't you step up to the podium here and state your name and.
Hi, my name's Todd Abel. I'm a resident of Hood River, been here for 6 years. Previous to that, we lived in Mosier for 12 years. I have a lovely wife, Lisa, who's an oncology nurse at Celilo Center, and 3 very, very active teenage boys. We chose Hood River because it's a very special place. I'm a very big outdoors person. And we found ourselves spending all of our time here. So we chose to settle down here. And throughout the 18 years, I've worked in Portland. But with recent events, I've been able to now commute or work from home a lot more, which gives me the opportunity to give back to the community. Previous to that, I really didn't have time to engage much in much volunteer efforts, especially with the boys being younger too. I'm a financial professional over 30 years. I'm currently a VP Finance with a global engineering company. I oversee the budget process for it's almost $800 million company with 1.2 billion in assets. But it really doesn't matter on the dollars. It's really relative to what your income is and what you're trying to spend. I really focus on effectiveness of spend, efficiency of spend. I believe in productive tension and having good engaged discussions, and really view the budget as a way to properly plan the activities for the coming year. There are many decisions that need to be made with a very good budget, and having that really makes it as efficient and effective as possible.
Right.
So with that, I'd be happy to help in any way. I'm not an expert on funds. Did do some teaching of that in my public accounting days or in college and university fund, but happy to help in any way.
Great, thank you so much. Appreciate your
Thank you.
volunteering.
You're welcome.
Appreciate it.
And we have some, Graham, go ahead.
Hi, thanks for the opportunity. I sold my business last year after 28 years, and I'm just looking for ways to stay involved. Way less experience than the other guy, and looking forward to learning from him and from everyone else.
That's okay. I think Todd might have more experience than maybe everybody except Will on city budgets. But we love all perspectives. That's what we need. So appreciate you putting your time in.
Thank you so much.
All right. So do we have a motion?
Yes. I would move to appoint Todd Abel and Graham Berg to the city's budget committee.
I'll second it.
I have a motion from Megan and a second from Tim to appoint Todd Abel and Graham Berg to the city's budget committee. Additional discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Nays? Abstentions? Chair votes aye. Thank you.
Thank you.
All right. City council work plan. Abigail.
Thank you, Mayor. Please present the council work plan for your consideration of adoption tonight. It outlines the council's goals and highest priority projects and serves as the organizational roadmap for the year. As you know, this work plan was developed with input from the community, from staff, and of course from you, both throughout the year and in the meeting that we had both on February 19th and then the special work session that we had on March 14th. This is the third time we're talking about it. Some of the projects listed are 1 year, others are multi-year. Some are, this is the first time you're seeing them. They're marked as a new project. Others are current projects, and it lists what their current status are. And we also really made an effort this year to make the whole report to really be as clear and as plain language as possible. So you'll see some of it's a bit more slimmed down and to really articulate what the activities are that we hope to accomplish in 2022. So a bit more focused and straightforward. Councilor Coonahan mentioned to me, thank you for pointing out, the matrix of goals on the first page did not match the goals project list, so we will reconcile those. So I would say the project list, each one of them identifies the goals that are met by that project, but the sheet that has all of them listed did not have that fully listed. So we will get that corrected. I noticed I got my marked and all my little green spots are the new ones. So we'll get that fixed. With that, happy to answer any questions. I think almost all of the project managers for all the projects are actually online watching this meeting. If you had any specific questions, otherwise we will fine tune this document, add some links to the projects that have dedicated pages, and then make this available for the public and use it as our roadmap for the budget and the rest of the year.
Megan? Sorry.
Don't have to apologize.
I feel annoyed. But so one on page 92 of the packet, page 7 of the plan, it says fiscal year 2021 to 22, and I assume that's 22, 23, just for
Thank you.
clarity with the public.
There were many proofreaders, but I'm very glad that you caught that. Thank you. I see that right now.
And then I have a couple more questions, I guess, but on page 96, the affordable housing production strategy implementation. And I know this is a hard one because of course we don't know what the strategy says yet. So how do you say what you're going to do to implement? But it said estimated target completion was 2023, which didn't seem super realistic for 8 strategies.
I think this is probably a multi-year phased project in which these activities in 2022 would be completed and a bit more, I think, and then there will be additional steps. So we probably need to rename this one as Affordable Housing Production Strategy Implementation Phase 1. Okay. And then if the estimated completion date would probably be 2023 and then ongoing activities.
Okay. And then, and maybe this is just a clarity thing, but I mean, it might be covered under incorporate strategies into applicable projects, but I guess, I wasn't, the main thing, which I think is the point of the project of how do you decide what things will be implemented and like the timeline of it, I guess, wasn't clear in the activities for 22.
The point we have I think I was thinking of that with the approved proposed strategy, the number 3 there, the activities would be which strategies are chosen and then what would the implementation of those look like? We can rewrite that to be more clear.
Yeah, I read that as we're just going to approve the strategy document.
Oh, gotcha.
Anyway, so I guess a little clarity there.
Okay, thank you for that. I appreciate it.
Thank you. And so a few other, I think, more minor ones. So the Parks Master Plan on page 102, activity number 2, seek opportunities to acquire land or support Parks and Rec. And I guess that already kind of assumed that we were leading land acquisition, and I wasn't sure if we wanted to imply that. So number 2 is that what you're talking about? Seek opportunities to acquire or support Parks and Rec to acquire, but it's, and I know this is our plan, so obviously we are the action item, but it, I don't know, I just flagged that of, we've already made a policy decision there, which I'm not sure we have.
So you mean because it says new project, but it's actually an existing project?
No, I'm reading activity number 2 to say that we will be acquiring the land. Parks and Rec may be a partner versus potentially the other way around.
Oh, I see.
And that just might be how I'm reading it and not everyone else, so.
Yeah, I read it as it should be that we're looking for opportunities and then they're also acquiring land.
That was my intent in writing it, was that, that the city was looking for opportunities, but that the Parks District would also be looking for opportunities, and that at times we would be their supporting partner. So a recent example is they applied for a grant from Oregon Parks and Recreation Department, and we wrote a letter of support. That was the kind of support I was thinking.
So this feels very minor, but maybe it's the parentheses makes that feel like a secondary action versus an equal.
Yes,
partner.
Understood. Okay.
Maybe you should say something about collaborating. You know, just because we're gonna collaborate, we're gonna work to collaborate with them. Whoever's gonna acquire, or because we both need to acquire park land, and or collaborate to figure out what we need and get it done. So maybe some word of collaboration there would help clarify a little bit.
Is land acquisition a goal that you want listed here? Or is, I heard you, Councilor Saunders, say that felt like a policy decision that was made here that's implied in this. We could strike this one altogether.
Oh,
or
no, I
something
mean,
more
I
generic.
think we've agreed that we're gonna do some. I just didn't want it to be the policy choices. We're doing all the land acquiring and not Parks and Rec.
I understand that. Thank you.
So sorry, I'm not being clear, and that is on me. And then
Since we're on that page, I just wanted to add one more thing on there, that we put, that we highlight that little box that says adequate parks and open space. Since we're on
Yes, and not equitable and diverse housing inventory.
Oh,
Correct,
that would be
correct.
great.
Thank you. That one off.
Yeah, got that one too.
Go ahead, Megan.
I think last thing, but on the public facility, community services facility, I guess has the county agreed to take the lead, or have we talked to them about that? That felt like a change.
I've talked to the county administrator, and he agreed that was logical. No, they have not formally said that they would take the lead, but I think how this was discussed during goal setting was looking holistically at all of these projects. We can't do all of these projects and be the lead agency on a city county public safety facility. So that's kind of where it plays into, is a understanding of our bandwidth in the context of all the other projects.
Okay, thank you. Okay, and for real, the last one, formalized park routes and food cart rules. And I suspect this would come up in the project scoping, but the activities for 22 didn't mention anything about outreach to the public about that. And I think that would be an important aspect of determining future rules.
Thank you for that.
And thank you for listening to all of that.
Thanks, Megan. Others that have things to add. Gladys?
Thank you, Mayor. Yes, I do have a couple items to add as well. Since we received 100 responses to this last survey, I think we're starting to set a baseline. So starting to think, what does success look like for this next coming year? Overall, I appreciated having more visuals in this packet. And I actually took this packet, printed it out, and started talking to people. What did you like? Is this easy to read? What kind of suggestions would you make? How do we make this easier for others to engage and to comprehend what we're talking about? And some of the feedback that I received was, how do we create videos so that for individuals who are illiterate for any reasons or just are unable to read this material, how do we have, whether that's Nubia, Abigail, somebody that's talking about the work that we're doing in a video format as opposed to a paper form, that be available in English and in Spanish. Overall, I would love to see what this packet looks like in Spanish as well. So having this exact documented translated into Spanish. There were folks that had mentioned, I don't know what R3 means. is it possible that there be some sort of key on the packet somewhere or links right next to those words? We use them interchangeably, but for some folks, they may not understand what R3 means or some of the other terminology that we use there. And then overall, there were a lot of conversations around the survey itself that we released this last year. How do we make those questions easy to answer? I think folks were a little confused this last year and really talked about what are we looking at for opportunities to hire a consultant or to really have a meeting to just discuss what the questions look like for the near future. Overall, I really liked the layout. I appreciated having these visuals in there, so thank you.
Thanks, class. Anyone want to go next? Mark?
I just want to say I really appreciate the format and the sort of the evolution of the format that has each thing on one page. It's very simple. There's graphics and words, and I think it's the right direction for both communicating to ourselves as we go through this process the next lap, and communicating to peoples of the community. So good work. I like it.
Eric?
My comments are echoing Mark's. The work plan really, one could tell that a lot of effort was put into it, and that was appreciated. So thank you to staff. And I'd also just remark that now it's all of our jobs to live up to this. So we've got our marching orders here, and we have work to do, both staff wise and then just in terms of our political leadership on the council. So off we need to go.
I'll just echo Mark and Eric, especially I appreciate how the plain language helped to make it easier for folks that are not us to access. So thank you.
I really like the visuals too, and I like that it actually it included the council goals, and it was easy to see how they related to the council goals, and I think that that's really important thing to be able to track. I also think the way that it's set up, it's also when you look towards the other end of it, that you might be able to use this as an organizing format for actually tracking progress towards achieving the goals and the activities outlined in here. So I think that that's fantastic as well. To Megan's point about that one particular bullet, I just read it to seek opportunities to acquire. So I wasn't really interpreting it as acquiring, more like looking for opportunities. So it's reasonable to me. The language is funny that way, isn't it? Isn't it? Yeah, it's just, you read it and then you take it one way or the other. But I would just say that I really appreciate all the effort that went into it, and I thank you for doing it.
Right. So much easier to read than just having words. I've got a couple of things. Page 93, column equity and inclusive community. I think we should check the box on the left that says advancing equity. There should be I've just got some little things like that basically. Yep. I think there's mainly just a couple. Page 96, where it says existing project, current status. I think the task force started in September 2021.
Oh, no. Thank you.
Yeah, there's just little, well, I read it. Oh, and then the other thing, significant projects, Columbia Cascade Urban Renewal closeout. Feasibility analysis / development plan for structured parking at the Columbia lot. So we talked about that, and maybe Will can answer this. Would that include looking into an LID? Because we were saying if we did a parking structure, we're gonna need more than just this money. So would that include that? Or something like that?
Yes, it does. You know, there's about $4 million left, and as we know, that is not going to get us structured parking. So it's to do a business plan and identify the funding gap and then also identify the ways that funding gap can be closed. And one of which would be a local improvement district, could also be a business improvement district, which is more voluntary, raising parking meter rates, bonding, any number of ways. But yes, absolutely, Mayor, will include an analysis of funding sources to close the gap.
Okay, I did, I don't necessarily need it in there, but I just had the question. Did it include that? So,
Yes.
Okay, great. Page 103. I think that the D Bridge Hydroelectric, I think that's an existing project, not a new one. Is that, I mean, we're just continuing on with that, right? And sure. That one. Oh, and then the only other one is under code enforcement. So, we have 4 things on here. Apprise council on current practices and regional trends, review existing priority code practice to ensure we're meeting state and federal statutes, okay? Propose new codes that don't exist currently to address gaps, implement fair and equitable enforcement procedures. But I think the one thing that we don't have listed, and specifically that I think we talked about, was review codes that are not enforced due to lack of staff to determine if they should be revised. So, for instance, can we not get around to all the people that are leaving big brush piles that could be fire hazards? Complaint driven, yes, there's a few. The shoveling of the sidewalks. We don't have enough staff to do that. Do we want to revise that? Do we want to leave it? I mean, we may want to just leave it like it is, but those are the kind of codes that I think we've gotten a few complaints that we are enforcing or we aren't enforcing, that we know what those are. We have probably a list of them, and that I don't know that we captured it in what's on here. So I just want to make sure we captured that part of it.
Thank you, Mayor. I think in that first one, we had apprise council on current practices, and I think some of that is taking feedback from you on our current practices, but I like what you said, pulling that out separately.
That's it. That's all I have. Great. Thank you so much for putting all that together.
I want to thank the project managers for each one of these projects as someone who's doing this on top of their day-to-day work, on top of the projects that walk through the door. And folks have done a great job of listing these and really being realistic about what we can do this year with the resources we have, but also really looking forward to it. The first quarter is already done. It ended on March 31st. So we are working on our first quarter status report to you. And I'd like to just include those in future council packets so that they're also available to the public. And Haley, who you heard from earlier today, is the manager of the projects. Who is collecting those updates and providing support to all of the project managers. So thank you, Haley, for keeping us going all year long, and to all of the project managers and staff who are working on this. And thank you for your direction. Excited to be working on these projects.
Great, thanks. I think that's it for regular business. Do we need to make a motion?
We need some action.
I move to approve and adopt the 2022 City of Hood River work plan with a couple minor edits from tonight.
I second.
Oh. Okay, Megan has made a motion, and Gladys and Tim have both seconded that. I guess we'll say Gladys seconded that, but they both did. And so any additional discussion? All those in favor of adopting the Hood River City Council work plan, Mark, did you have a question?
No, I was eyeing.
Oh, you're voting, okay. Sorry about that. Aye.
Aye.
Right.
All right, any nays? Any abstentions? Chair votes aye. All right, we've got a work plan, and we're done with the first quarter. All right, mayor call. Let's see here. Another meeting at the Bi-State Working Group today. First in-person meeting that we've had, and it was good. We did a hybrid meeting, and an RFP has gone out for the bridge management company contract that would be managing this building of the new, not the contractor, but just managing the whole thing. And I think we're supposed to get bids back in 3 weeks, maybe. So that's going forward. That's good news. And I don't think I have anything else right now. I mentioned earlier that the Energy Council is working with the next door to do another solarized campaign. And there'll be a lot of information coming out in the next few weeks about that. And Marla has transitioned out, and we now have Lindsay McClure, who's has taken her position. And so we're looking forward to having our first meetings. We've met her, so to speak, but she seems great. So we're moving forward. That's all I have. Jessica?
I'll share through work. We have the final 2022 to 2027 Columbia Gorge Comprehensive Economic Development Strategy all done, and the final document was approved by the MCHED board in March, and Abigail had included an update earlier, or I guess in an email, about where the city's projects landed on the priority list. But the full document that is 68 pages is done. It's beautiful. We had a graphic designer help this time, and she also helped make it into a more accessible website. So gorgeeconomy.org is where it is, and we will have some print copies for partners. So at least Abigail will get a print copy at some point. So, but it was exciting to say that it's done.
That's a big project. All right, Megan?
Yeah, so we had the final meeting of the Affordable Housing Task Force 2 weeks ago. I lost track of time. Sometime between the last meeting and this. We reviewed the draft document that I think all of us are seeing next meeting of council, or you guys have already seen in an email. We'll be talking about in the next meeting, but group generally agreed with it, made sense with what we've been talking about over the last few months. And I did just want to pass on, they shared appreciation for having a council ICM and kind of a direct route to council and another avenue for communication with us, with me and staff. And so I wanted to pass it on to all of you. It was appreciated and noted.
I think that's a good way to do those things. I think having the planning commission interviews where we have a council member and the parking committee stuff that Mark and I did, and we had a connection there, and then with staff, I think those have been the people who have been volunteering in those committees really do appreciate having that really good connection with us. They feel like they're being heard. So that's great. Tim?
Nothing for me tonight. Thank you.
Okay. Mark?
Yeah, the only thing is that I won't be able to attend the next meeting because I'll be on a business trip, but I'll be thinking about you guys.
We'll have snacks.
Not tater tots. Eric?
Thank you, Mayor. Just a couple of things. First, just in reference to the comments I made during the Urban Renewal District meeting, it's not my intention to raise a concern and not try to be proactive in helping resolve the concern to the extent it exists. So Abigail, I'm happy to speak with you if you have some time next week, just to discuss some of the things that were discussed. and move that discussion along. And then secondly, and also related to ODOT, is the ACT had a meeting last week, and I participated in that. And Kevin Greenwood of the port actually gave a thorough presentation about the bridge project to the entire ACT meeting. That's the ODOT committee that I sort of represent the city on. And it was very informative. And I saw a new rendering of the bridge, which I'll email to everyone. It's a rendering I hadn't seen before, just so we can sort of see what might be coming. But I guess the takeaway for me was just that the port and Mr. Greenwood is continuing the effort to raise awareness about the project because of its many funding necessities. And he was there doing that in full bloom to the entire ACT at last week's meeting before ODOT. And that's all I have. Thank you.
Thanks, Eric. Gladys?
I just wanted to remind community members of the Community Egg Easter Hunt this Saturday, April 16th, 10 to noon. I heard Counselor Zandmiller was going to dress up as a bunny, so I don't know. We might see him there.
Absolutely. Yeah.
Maybe a bunny in a snowsuit if it snows.
I'm excited to see community gather again, community agencies. I believe that Abigail mentioned that police, fire, and city staff, admin staff are going to be there as well. So it's nice to see that we're all going to gather together again.
Oh, I didn't mention this, but went to the open house for La Clinica mobile unit. And Gladys did a fantastic job of emceeing that, I thought. And there was quite a few people there. And it's quite an amazing facility. And so much needed.
Thank you. I appreciate that. A lot of hard work, but we have a really good team and we're just excited to provide, to continue providing access to folks. So thanks for coming out.
If we don't have anything else, all right. It is 7:44. We will adjourn.
Thanks, everybody.
Thank you. Have a good night.